Okay, Pico,
Yes.
just introduce yourself, give a bit about your background, and um, yeah, what brought you to SA Hockey?
Okay. Thanks, Chad. My name is Phiko Mbuqe. Just been appointed as a CEO of South African Hockey. I'm a sports manager by profession. Done sports management through CPUT, and I've worked in the national department for about 14 years. Started as an intern, and then I left in 2019 as a assistant director, looking at federations funding. And then I moved to South African Gymnastics as their operations manager, helping them also with funding and national lotteries and all. And then went to a private company for about a year, dealing with school sports revitalization, specifically in the Eastern Cape, from the four towns of Adelaide to Somerset East. And then I saw this opportunity and I was like, why not? It also helps broaden my um, perspective in terms of how I can assist in hockey. And then I applied for this post, and I was one of the lucky ones to be interviewed and to be called again to say you've been appointed.
Any hockey experience yourself?
I've never played hockey. I think it was part of high school. We had to choose between between rugby and hockey. So we never had football in our school. So I decided to do rugby. My dad was always a fan of rugby and he played. So he wanted me to try. So I tried it out in high school, and then, yeah.
You've spoken a bit about your experience, and it sounds like you're a fan of transformation and taking any federation or sporting code and just leaving it in a better place. From what I understand, um, how do you see this challenge at SA Hockey, and what have you come to find it? What space have you come to find it in?
Look, I think all sporting codes have their own challenges and different ways on how to deal with them. I think in SA Hockey, you find a community of people who are really into hockey and how to bring about hockey into the high standards. Obviously, we're not in the top four, whether it's funding or in terms of play. So we appreciate people like you coming to us and saying, "Look, let's do an interview with you guys to find out where South African hockey is going." I think South African hockey is, for the month I've been, it's been a learning curve in terms of what is happening. It's a point of me understanding where it is and how I can assist using my background as well as my understanding of sport, and also how to elevate it. I kind of feel that South African hockey is at a rising stage, not because of me, but it's always been through the predecessors in terms of how they've done hockey. And I think for me is just to take from that step and drive the journey forward in terms of what the strategic vision of the federations are.
I know it's been a month and a bit now.
Yeah.
But what sort of opportunities have you already seen, or are you working on perhaps, and looking at closing and seeing come to fruition?
Look, I think there's a lot of opportunities that are available. I mean, we started having discussion with certain companies in terms of sponsorship, and we're engaging more people on sponsorship to help the teams. And we've also been in discussion about potential hosting, whether it's a African Hockey Congress or the FIH Congress or maybe even the World Cup. So I think we at the point now where we're trying to elevate ourselves as a hockey fraternity and bring people together in terms of even hosting a World Cup in South Africa. It would be a massive opportunity for us. And I think last week I was attending the Sports Business Forum where the Premier Panyaza Sufi was also talking about hosting in Gauteng. How government are intending or open to host the world in South Africa. And I think as South African hockey, it's also an opportunity for us to look at that route, because it also bring a lot of our communities to come and watch hockey. And I mean, just now in December, we have India coming into South Africa to play in Cape Town. which is another opportunity for our team, to build in terms of from the Africa Cup of Nations, to have India, who's in the top 10 in the world, and to have an opportunity to play against the best before the World Cup is what we're trying to do as South African hockey.
You've spoken a bit about the team and the AFCON that we recently saw.
Yes.
We saw the success earlier in the indoor front. We expected our teams to win, and they actually delivered on the continental front. What do you make of these performances and what they can do for SA hockey in terms of sourcing funding and sponsorship and etc.?
Yeah. I think Chad, it's very important that we have a winning culture as South African hockey, because if you look at your sponsors and your funders, they always like to back a winning team, and we're moving in the right trajectory. If you just also note, this is our 8th African Cup of Nations between both the males and the females, and it shows a good strength in terms of a stronghold for in Africa. And yes, we've got tough competitions in Africa, but we have to consistently produce the results in Africa, because that's our World Cup qualifier. And it's very important for us to always move from that trajectory into the World Cup. And going into the World Cup next year, we just have to do our best. Currently the men are lying in 12th in the world. It would be really nice to break into the top 10, and our females are currently lying around about 20th. So there's a lot of improvement to be done in terms of females. And I think the alignment with our high performance as well as our coaches is very strategically important in order for us to get our ladies in that top 15, for example.
We're obviously now moving into the build-up to next year's World Cup. But there's also the under-21s
Yes.
Who are going to the World Cup. What are preparations looking like for them in terms of, preparation matches and then also just funding for the tournament? Because I do know in the past players had to source funds themselves to travel to events.
Okay. Yeah, no, true, Chad. It's one of those, being a small sporting coach. You face the realities of a lot of players having to source funding. But in terms of the under-21s going to the World Cup, through the Department of Sports and Recreation's grant funding, we're able to provide the teams R1 million each. And then the remainder of the amount will be then sourced from the players. We are working tirelessly to find sponsors that can actually cover the players in totality, and just say, guys, don't stress about this one. This is what we're doing. And then in terms of preparations, we've got a various couple of matches before the tournament starts, with the boys and the ladies before the World Cup. So we've got a couple of matches prepared, trainings, and trainings and matches in those aspects in terms of preparing. But I think also after this World Cup is where our high performance in totality will then structure in terms of how we move forward. Prepare for the men's World Cup. How do we do that? And I think from my side, what I bring is also how to get strategic partnerships with countries using the Department of Sports and Recreation, because they've got memorandum of understandings with various countries. You've got your India coming now for the men. It would be nice to have India coming through for the females as well as the juniors, so that, because if you look at India, in the world rankings, outdoor juniors, they're all the top 3. It's very good for us to have those kind of strategic intent with those countries, so that we can build our participation, give the athletes more experience to play against top-notch countries. You look at your Germanys, you look at your Netherlands. It would be very nice to have those games, whether we're traveling or they coming to us. It just builds the confidence of the players and give them an opportunity to play against the best in the world.
Yeah, which is what you want. You want that exposure.
Yes.
Will there be a strategic focus perhaps on these juniors, given they're now getting World Cup experience, and these are your next Kani Tabobs and your Mustafa Kasims, Dayan Kasims?
Like I said, Chad, I think for now, after this World Cup, we'll have another discussion with HP in terms of what the intent will be going forward, specifically with the juniors. as well as the seniors, and then also how we want to grow our hockey five, as a country, because that's another opportunity we have, and would like to participate at the world stage in that sense also. So after those World Cup, we'll restructure, go back, and then find a way on how, as HP as well as the country, how we'll produce, we'll go forward in terms of a strategic intent for all our national teams.
Lastly, then, with these discussions underway with all the government partners or the nations that you mentioned, as the government would have MOUs with, what opportunities are there for our men's and women's teams to then thoroughly prepare for next year's World Cup and possibly emulate what the indoor men's team did earlier this year?
Look, I think, Chad, the discussions will start fairly new in terms of them. I think one of the things we need to source from the department is what kind of agreements are available currently now. And is there opportunity for hockey to be in those spaces of those agreements in terms of what is there? And that will help us, because in engaging with government will then indicate what our strategic intent is to have partnerships with these countries. If they are there, it's great. How can we then pick up on that? If they're not, how do we then develop those kind of agreements with those countries? I'm sure it's not only us, but other federations are also including that. The benefit of such agreements in terms of us for South African hockey is that there's exchange of expertise. Our coaches can go to, for example, India or as well as Germany to go learn from these other coaches. And there's also exchange in terms of teams going through. So you could find that we can take our SA men, females, as well as our juniors to, for example, India, Germany, and Netherlands, and do training sessions with those guys and help in terms of improving where we are. So those are the strategic intents about that. But also you can have them coming here during their winter season to come to South Africa, do trainings with us, and also have matches, which then also builds in terms of our teams getting ready for the next World Cup. So it's all about the growth of our players, but also having alignment with those countries in terms of improving South Africa's rankings.
Your focus in terms of your term here as CEO, where would you like to see hockey in South Africa by the time you leave this position?
Wow. Okay. I think for me, it's to have stability, in the sense of improved stability as in our teams, but also as South African hockey. I don't want to be bold to say I want to be in the top 5, but I think we're on a trajectory of building right now, from where we had. And ideally for me, I would love our men to be in the top 10 and competing consistently against the top countries. Our females to start climbing up the ranks, but we also provide them opportunities with more international exposure to play more so that they're able to gradually increase in the rankings. To have our indoors also men and females to improve the rankings, as well as hockey fives. I think there's a great opportunity in hockey fives for us to grow much more than the outdoor as well as the indoor. So for me, I think it's have our teams within top 10 world international rankings, and participate more and have more matches coming to South Africa, and also helping our region as SADC to grow more, because I think that's also another important part, is to assist and help countries around us to grow also. Because we don't stay isolated alone in Africa, but we want your Eswatinis, your Zimbabwe's to grow more. And for us to do that, I think we need to start looking at partnerships with those countries also, and not just the top of the guys, but also around us too.
Going down into the obviously club and amateur scene, what can we do better as SA Hockey, and I mean, how far are we from establishing a professional league? Has feasibility studies been done in the past? Do you know of anything, and do you intend to do anything?
Look, I think, Chad, we had a Premier Hockey League for about, I think, 3 years, from 2017 onwards. And it kind of started with the department because they started providing funding for that. And I think after the 3 year term, it kind of dwindled down. But I think for now, for us, it's these three pillars that we're looking at is our growth strategy, as well as our events and high performance. I think once we started building the blocks for that, it's then we'll look at do we go back to Premier Hockey League, or how will we do it better? Because there is a base we can move from. And for now, it's to then call our members together and say, guys, this is what happened. How do we build as a collective in terms of how we improve our hockey league and the sustainability of it? Because, I mean, if someone comes through and provides us funding, we genuinely want it to be a sustainable thing. It's not a let's do it for 5 years to see it out. We want to produce a hockey league that will be sustainable, profitable, and also give a lot of opportunities for athletes.
And that's the key, is that you want to have those pathways so that
That's correct.
interest doesn't dwindle at the bottom.
That's correct.